You think coffee is all about cozy mornings and warm conversations? Tell that to the guy who lost his job, his reputation, and even his friends in just 3 days, all because of one comment to the wrong person. But here's the real question. Did he deserve what happened next? Let's dive in. It was another so-called charming day in the suburbs of New York, where everything seemed a little too polished, a little too fake. The kind of place where people pretended their lives were Instagram-worthy 24/7s. Jason Lewis, 22, had been a waiter at Sunny Morning Cafe for the past year, and let's just say, customer service wasn't exactly his calling. Known for his sharp tongue and a knack for pushing people's buttons, Jason had perfected the art of pretending to care while secretly rolling his eyes at every special request. Jason wasn't a fan of rich kids, especially the ones who waltzed in like they owned the world. To him, they were just walking trust funds with no sense of reality. So when a tall, blonde teenager strolled through the cafe doors that morning, dressed in understated yet clearly expensive running gear, Jason's internal monologue kicked into high gear. "Great," Jason muttered under his breath, watching the guy walk in. "Another daddy's boy slumming it with us peasants. Lovely." The blonde kid, 18-year-old Barron Trump, approached the counter with a calm, almost reserved demeanor. Jason didn't recognize him because, honestly, who keeps track of political royalty unless it's trending? To Jason, he was just another preppy kid who probably tipped in coins and acted like it was charity. Jason sauntered over to the counter, donning his best "what do you want now" expression. "Morning," he said, his voice dripping with forced politeness. "What can I do for you?" "Just a latte and a croissant, please," Barron replied, his tone polite and straightforward. Jason raised an eyebrow. A latte and a croissant? For someone who probably had a private chef back home, the simplicity of the order almost annoyed him. "Wow," Jason said, barely able to contain the sarcasm. "Keeping it real humble today, huh? No truffle-infused almond milk or gold-dusted pastries? Just this?" He smirked as he punched the order into the register. Barron didn't rise to the bait. He simply handed over his card and waited patiently, his face betraying no reaction to Jason's snark. The lack of a response only fueled Jason's irritation. He thrived on reactions, and the blonde kid's calm demeanor was throwing him off. After a few minutes, Barron's order was ready. He took his tray and headed to a quiet corner of the cafe. Jason watched him go, muttering under his breath, "Bet he doesn't even know how to spell a late." But Jason wasn't done. Oh no. When Barron finished his coffee and stood up to leave, Jason saw an opportunity to have the last word. In a loud voice that cut through the cafe's cozy chatter, he called out, "Hey, yeah, you, Mr. Latte. Don't forget your tray and trash, or do you think someone's gonna follow you around and clean up your mess?" The entire cafe went silent, all eyes on Barron. The teen hesitated for a split second, clearly uncomfortable with the attention. Then, without a word, he picked up his tray and disposed of his trash, his face calm but a hint of embarrassment visible. Jason leaned back against the counter, smirking like he'd just won some imaginary battle. "Good boy," Jason muttered under his breath, loud enough for a couple of nearby patrons to hear. One of them shot him a disapproving glare, but Jason didn't care. To him, it was all in good fun. Just another way to make his mundane job a little more interesting. As Barron walked out of the cafe, Jason watched him go, his smirk still firmly in place. Little did he know, his fun was about to take a turn he never saw coming. Jason woke up to his phone buzzing like it was trying to escape his nightstand. He groaned, reaching for it, still half asleep. Who texts this much at... He paused to glance at the time. 7 o'clock in the morning? He unlocked the screen, expecting some group chat drama. What he found instead hit him like a slap in the face. Notifications, hundreds of them. Every app on his phone was screaming for attention. Comments, messages, mentions. Jason sat up, blinking at the onslaught. The top notification was from a video someone had tagged him in. His stomach churned as he tapped on it. The clip loaded, and there he was, standing behind the counter at Sunny Morning, smirking like he'd just won Employee of the Month. The caption, "Waiter humiliates Barron Trump. Must watch." Jason's heart sank as the video played out, showing the exact moment he had called out Barron for not cleaning up his tray. The camera zoomed in on Barron's embarrassed face, then cut back to Jason Smug's grin. The comments were even worse. "This is disgusting behavior. Who treats people like this? Barron didn't deserve that. Fire this guy immediately. Wow, some people will do anything for attention." Jason scrolled faster, hoping for some support. A few people were on his side, calling him brave for standing up to privilege, but they were drowned out by the flood of criticism. And then there it was, a hashtag. #Barron shamed. Jason groaned, dropping his phone onto the bed. "Oh, great. Now I'm trending. Just what I needed." Asen figured he could get ahead of the storm. Grabbing his phone, he opened his social media app and typed out a post. "Seriously, people? It was just a kid cleaning up after himself. What's the big deal? Don't we all do that?" He hit post, expecting the wave of outrage to die down. Instead, it exploded. Doubling down? Wow, what a classy guy. If this is how he handles customers, no wonder the cafe's empty. This guy clearly missed the memo on professionalism. Jason stared at his screen in disbelief. "Are these people for real?" he muttered, tossing the phone onto the couch. But the backlash didn't stop there. By noon, local news outlets were running the story with headlines like "Waiter sparks outrage after humiliating Barron Trump" and "Sunny Morning Cafe. Faces boycott after viral incident." The cafe's social media pages were flooded with angry comments. Jason's coworkers started whispering behind his back, their usual friendly banter replaced with side glances and awkward silences. Even Claire, the cafe's manager, seemed ready to snap. By the time Jason walked into work, Claire was waiting for him by the counter, arms crossed and fuming. "Jason, we need to talk," she said, her voice tight with barely contained frustration. Jason sighed, already bracing himself. "Look, if this is about the video, it's not that big of a deal. People are overreacting." Claire's eyes widened. "Not a big deal? Jason, our phones haven't stopped ringing all morning. People are canceling orders, leaving bad reviews, and saying they'll never set foot in here again." Jason shrugged. "So what? It'll blow over. These things always do." Claire shook her head. "You don't get it, do you? This isn't just about you. It's about all of us. You've dragged the whole cafe into your mess." Jason opened his mouth to argue, but the look on Claire's face stopped him. She wasn't just mad, she was panicked. And for the first time, Jason started to realize just how badly he'd messed up. The rest of the day was brutal. Customers who recognized Jason from the video stared at him like he was some kind of exhibit. A few whispered loud enough for him to hear, while others just walked out as soon as they saw him. Even his co-workers, who usually joked around with him, kept their distance. By the end of his shift, the cafe was emptier than it had been in months. Jason leaned against the counter, staring at the door. For once, he didn't have a snarky comment. All he could think was, how did this get so out of control? Jason rolled into the sunny morning parking lot on the third day, still clinging to the hope that things might somehow blow over. He had convinced himself that the internet's rage cycle was fast and fleeting. People would move on to the next viral scandal, and everything would go back to normal. But as he walked up to the cafe, his heart sank. A giant, "Closed for inventory" sign was taped to the glass door. Jason frowned, pulling at the handle. Locked. "What the?" he muttered, stepping back to make sure he hadn't misread the sign. Inside, the lights were dim, but he could see Claire, the manager, waiting by the office door with a folder in her hand. Her expression was colder than a December morning. Jason knocked on the glass, and Claire gestured for him to come around the back. When he entered through the staff door, Claire didn't even wait for him to speak. "Jason, follow me," she said curtly, walking straight to the office. The tension in her voice made Jason's stomach churn, but he tried to keep his cool. Once they were inside, Claire handed him an envelope. "This is for you," she said, her tone flat. Jason opened it and skimmed the contents. A termination letter. "You're letting me go?" he asked, his voice rising in disbelief. "For what? Doing my job?" Claire crossed her arms. "This isn't about your job, Jason. This is about the brand. Our reputation is in shambles. Customers are canceling orders, reviews are tanking, and we're losing money every single day this scandal drags on. We can't afford to keep you here." Jason scoffed, throwing the letter on her desk. "So what? You're just gonna pin all of this on me? Like I'm the bad guy?" Claire's eyes narrowed. "Jason, you humiliated a customer, and not just any customer. You made a scene with someone who has the entire internet rallying behind him. This isn't about blame, it's about survival. Sunny Morning can't survive with you here. Jason wanted to argue, but deep down, he knew she was right. Still, the sting of rejection was too much to swallow. Without another word, he grabbed his things and stormed out. Jason barely had time to process his firing before the real nightmare began. The moment he stepped inside his apartment, he heard a knock at the door. It wasn't the casual kind either. This was the relentless, impatient pounding of someone who wouldn't take "go away" for an answer. When he opened the door, Jason was met with a wall of cameras and microphones, reporters, all vying for a piece of the story. "Jason, do you regret your actions at Sunny Morning? Do you have a message for the Trump family? Are you planning to issue a public apology?" Jason's jaw tightened. "No comment," he said, trying to shut the door, but one of the reporters stuck their foot in the frame. "Come on, Jason, don't you want to set the record straight?" the reporter pressed. Jason hesitated. Maybe this was his chance to explain himself. Maybe he could shift the narrative, make people see things from his perspective. Against his better judgment, he stepped outside and began to speak. "Look," he started, forcing a calm tone. "This whole thing has been blown way out of proportion. I didn't do anything wrong. All I did was ask someone to clean up after themselves. Is that such a crime?" The cameras recorded every word, but instead of calming the storm, Jason's comments added fuel to the fire. By the next morning, his impromptu interview was everywhere, accompanied by headlines like "Waiter plays the victim in Barron Trump controversy" and "Jason Lewis doubles down on viral scandal." The internet tore him apart. Memes, think pieces, parody videos. Jason became the punchline of the week. And just when he thought it couldn't get any worse, a letter arrived in the mail. A legal notice. Jason ripped open the envelope, his hands trembling. It was a lawsuit. The Trump family was suing him for defamation and emotional distress. The letter was filled with legal jargon, but one thing was clear: they weren't messing around. Their team of high-powered lawyers was already preparing to take him down. Jason's head spun. "This can't be real," he muttered, pacing around his apartment. He knew he couldn't afford a lawyer, let alone fight a case against one of the most influential families in the country. The walls felt like they were closing in. As the week went on, Jason's life unraveled further. He tried applying for other jobs, but every time a potential employer Googled his name, the scandal came up. No one wanted to hire that guy from the Barron Trump video. His friends, tired of the drama, stopped answering his calls. Even his neighbors gave him side-eye when they passed him in the hallway. By the end of the month, Jason was unemployed, friendless, and completely out of options. His name had become a symbol of everything people hated about bad customer service, and no amount of apologies could fix it. Sitting alone in his dark apartment, Jason finally realized the weight of what he'd lost. Not just his job, but his reputation, his connections, and his sense of self. For the first time, he wondered if maybe, just maybe, he had brought this all on himself. What would you have done if you were in Jason's shoes? Do you think he deserved the backlash, or was it all blown out of proportion? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Have you, or someone you know, ever faced a similar situation? Let us know. Don't forget to like this story if it made you think and spread awareness by sharing it. This story was created to shed light on important issues, spark conversations, and inspire positive change. Remember, your opinion matters, and together, we can make the world a better place.